Just the finest musicians available. If you look at the latest record, you'll see there are different drummers on most of the cuts, and each person used for what they can do best. How dare you use such excellence? In addition,
and
it
costs
accuses
a pretty penny too. I'd like to say.
Now wait a minute. It also accuses you are low-profile professionals, quietly avoiding media personality mongering. I think that's an outrage.
Sounds like the mafia or something.
No, you sound too perfect that way. You've avoided media personality mongering, and really, I don't respect you for that.
We saw that out on the sidewalk. That's why we're here, Bob. To avoid media personality.
To avoid media. Is there anyone else, to your knowledge, who approaches the recordings the way you do, that you just choose the personnel? I mean,
yes, it's actually common practice.
Is it really?
Well,
I know Paul Simon does it, but
Paul Simon does exactly.
He goes by the name of an individual artist. You know, if you were Fagen and Becker, or pardon me, Becker and Fagen.
Well, groups like the Mamas and Papas, are obviously not a self-contained musical unit, so they did the same thing that we did, and a lot of groups that were ostensibly self-contained, like the Beatles, did the same thing we did. We did it when we were ostensibly self-contained group.
Yeah.
To see how,
Clearly there's no trade-off, though. I mean, it's not like, gee, you guys are strangers and haven't played together. Everyone seems to sound so good.
No, it works very well, because the people that you hire to come in and make your record, that's the very thing they do for a living. And so, sounds good.
That's a good way of looking at it. Would you say that performing live in front of people is something that you still haven't changed your attitude pretty much about? The fact that people would like to see you very much, and I would want that Steely Dan audience would be among the most behaved in rock. Very little chance of a disaster.
Well, things have changed, if that's the case. I remember some pretty rowdy audience. Basically, our attitude is still about the same. Neither of us like the life on the road, the traveling and so on. And since we don't have a band at this time, it would be very difficult to perform because...
You could get one of those attachments they have with the accordions.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You could have one of those things that they have at the weddings.
And, it's too expensive.
True. You could rent it, though. Yeah.
Amortize it over a period of 18 months, something like that. Installment plan. Yeah. On the installment plan.
I think we're getting the idea here. This is... If you know a word like amortize, okay, I may as well get off the boat here. You know what the hell.
Hey, whoa.
But how about
a few more of those later? We're going to give you structuralism and things like that.
Structuralism. You also used bodacious. I looked it up in 2-3 dictionaries. It doesn't exist.
No, you must know what bodacious.
No, but I do know in a slang way, but in the gaucho... The discography is heavy. I have it in front of me here. The latest one is Gaucho. I'll hold up to the microphone so you can see. As usual, a terrific cover. But what I count here to be, 8 albums? 9 albums?
I don't know how many you got.
20.
Enough.
Steely Dan. The discography is like, could weigh down...
See, if we put them out every 3 months, our career would have been over in January of 1972.
Well, if you were Frank Zappa, you would have done that. A 16-album set.
That's true. That's true.
Gary Katz has been your producer throughout, though. Throughout all this, forever. There has been some change, of course, in Steely Dan. People like Michael McDonald and some others had once been members. And yet, Gary Katz has remained throughout. I consider that extremely unusual in the music business. I think you'll have to admit.
He wouldn't leave. He refused.
Gary, it's been too long. Can you take a hint? Don't talk to Gary. Hello, Bill. Hello, Terry. Gary. Didn't take a hint. The guy wouldn't take a hint, right? But could he pull dials? I get it. Is it true on Gaucho an engineer erased some important tracks?
Not an engineer. Not anymore.
He's working on the Santa Fe now.
Right,
that must have been
bus boy.
That's right, fellas. 5 weeks of work. Yeah, let's rain.
Something like that happened, yes.
That's something I've actually had dreams about.
I know, it's the worst thing that happened. The worst thing happened.
How much work did it involve?
It was complete.
Hope he and his family are listening now. Let's jeer him. you know.
He really was embarrassed, too.
Oh, I'm sure he was.
His face was red. Oh, deep red.
Oh, that's awful. But I don't know, you can't tell. It sounds splendid.
That cut's not on the record, though, Robert. Who knows that?
Woof. You'd never know it. You'd never know it. He must have been a bodacious son of a gun. The guy must have been just bodacious as anything. Gee. So, no touring, huh? Gee.
Last time we tried, we found that we had made it so thoroughly impractical that we couldn't even rig it up if we wanted to.
What, you mean in terms of taking things with you?
Well, in other words, it would have taken 6 months to rehearse a band to do a month's worth of concerts, and even then it wouldn't have been what you expect to see at a concert, which is like a band that has been playing together for some amount of time. That there's a time element. You just can't have guys reading music on stage. You know?
See, I speculated this without ever having spoken to you before I even delved into lots of statements you've made in the press or something, that you simply didn't think you could get it the way you wanted it.
Well, it's simply a matter, a lot of, I guess most popular artists, it's just a matter of course to go out and recreate their records. It's not like jazz. It's not an improvisational form, really, to any great extent.
Yeah.
And we're just not interested in really reinterpreting or recreating every night what's on a record. To keep ourselves interested, we need new music, and it's just not that exciting to us.
This is better. You almost toured with Angel. What happened with that?
Well, as I say, we started. We had a couple of rehearsals, and there was. Tell me about the escalating pay scale. I thought there was a well, we figured out who we wanted to go out on the road with us, and these are mostly studio musicians, right? And everybody said, well, okay, I'd love to do it, but I'm going to miss a lot of dates, and I have to have X dollars a night, right? Everybody got what they wanted. First rehearsal with 3 people there, they all found out that they were getting different amounts, right? So one of the keyboard section, it was a keyboard section rehearsal, started to, there was some unionizing going on,
Right.
And suddenly we felt like,
one guy got up on a table and with a sign.
Yeah,
like Norma Ray,
Steely Dan, unfair.
One of the guys said, I'm not going to do this for $600 a night. And the other guy said, well,
they brought down and I left the room.